Welcome back, everybody. We were getting into deep conversations about work and everything else. That we decided we needed to hit the record button before we rambled on here too long with all that. And we have a lot to talk about today. It's going to be a very exciting show. It's been, I think, a couple of weeks since we did our last one.
Yeah.
And just a lot going on. A lot of business changes, a lot of transitions, a lot of things are staying the same, a lot of things are moving forward. I could talk about my stuff all day, from the different clients that I offload every month to the ones that I pick up, or the ones that I have that I try to offer more stuff to, which we're going to get into a little bit of that, and just the psychology behind all of that. I will say that what's a lesson that I learned very recently is there were some people, and this is a balance, right? Because this is, on the one hand, one would say, like, if you work for somebody you don't like working for, you should get rid of them and not let them stress you. I will say this, though: there are a couple of clients that I have, still don't like them, but I ended up biting my tongue many times on things that they are doing. I had to talk to one of them early this morning, as a matter of fact, and I stuck it out. And because nobody else would stick it out with them, and I did, and I know this isn't always healthy, but in these particular circumstances, they're paying me a lot more now to do a lot less. And now I'm finally reached the point where, like, I'm actually okay doing the work. So I know that's kind of counterintuitive, because you say, hey, if you don't want to work for somebody, they can screw off. But I also understand that if you push through that barrier, that wall. So I guess what I'm saying is that sometimes there are things we have to do that we don't want to do, and if you stick with it, it'll pay off. Now, I've had the opposite experience too, where I've had somebody that I've worked for or worked with that I've hated. They made me miserable every minute of every day. But I have had that unique experience where I looked at my spreadsheet and I'm like, gosh, there's the people on this list. There's two accounts in particular. I wish I could name them. Someday I will. One of them was one of the accounts that burned me out, that we did that episode last summer when I got back from Mexico. That I, like, kind of basically screwed the whole thing up and lost a lot of money for everybody involved. But I stayed humble and I worked my way back up, and now it's a considerable contract again. So it's weird. It's tough, right? Like, how long do you hold on for? Like, how long do you push through? And that goes with a lot of things in life, exercise, everything else. Like, how long do you know when to quit? And I know that's like a question on everybody's mind, because I don't know the right answer to that. But some things I've screwed up on. I've stuck in there too long when I should have pulled the trigger, or like pulled the grenade pin, whatever you want to call it, jumped out of the plane, whatever. Or the ones I've stuck with, some of them have paid off, and I couldn't have foreseen any of this. So anyway, that's my opening thought on all this. I'll let you take it from there.
It's an interesting thing in terms of the fact that it's when I talk to people and I say, follow your passion, everyone nods their head and goes, yes, 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 that makes perfect sense. Or like, follow my excitement. I get it. I get it. And then they go and they leave our session and they just don't really follow through on it, because they sit there saying, well, I can't really follow through on my passion because, I still have bills to pay. I still have mouths to feed. I still have all these different things. And I see this happening for people over and over again. And so just a couple of weeks ago, Brittany and I had a book club in our shift community where we spoke about The Illusion of Money by Kyle Cease. And he gives the most perfect example in there. So everyone knows Michael Jordan, the world's greatest basketball player in history, basically. And they say, imagine that you're living in an alternate universe where Michael Jordan never picked up basketball. And one day, and you actually step into that universe. So you actually know how good Michael Jordan could be, but you're the only person that knows it. And you show up at an Arby's one day, and this really tall gentleman comes up to you and starts offering you your food. And you go, oh my God, that's Michael Jordan. And you're like, aren't you playing basketball? He's like, no. I've been working at Arby's, that's what I do. And and you're like, you really have to try basketball. And he goes, well, you know what? I played a little bit in high school. My high school coach said I wasn't all that good. I just gave it up. I don't think you understand. My manager here is telling me that if I just stick with this job, within the next 12 to 24 months, I'm going to be a manager. That's how good they say I am here. And you're like, dude, I don't think you understand. If you just took up basketball, you would be amazing. He goes, yeah, but there's so much training involved and it's so difficult. And I don't really think I want to do it. And what happens if I fail? And you sit there going, but what happens if you succeed? And he's like, I don't think you understand. I take your advice, and don't get me wrong. I love basketball. I love playing as a kid, but it's just not something real for me. And from the outside, when we talk about that story, everyone can sit there and say, oh my God, that is just beyond crazy. You're talking about a person that could become a multimillionaire and completely shape an industry. But what you see in that reality is a person that just doesn't believe in their own capabilities, doesn't know anything better, and so is stuck in the grind of just making ends meet. And I see that with so many people. My true, genuine belief, and I think I've actually brought this up in other podcasts, is, and the example I've given before is it's when I was a teenager and I was in high school and I had to make some extra money, I became a waiter. And I broke so much cutlery and so much crockery just trying to be a waiter. And I realized I sucked at it. But at the same time, when it came down to talking to people and when it came down to playing around on a computer, it just came absolutely natural to me. But what would happen if I was just in a situation where I had to just make ends meet the whole time? I just stuck with being a waiter. I would fight through that and I would end up becoming a somewhat decent waiter because anything you give enough attention to, you could do. But at the same time, the thing that I feel I was truly put on this earth to do, I would not be doing. I really and truly believe that had I stayed a waiter, 5 years later, I would have been an okay waiter. Somewhere in the back of my mind, whenever I helped someone, I'd be like, oh my God, this feels so good. I wish I could do this for a living. And I'd be like, no, I can't do that for a living. And so what happened for me though is I actually did make that shift, luckily, and I did go towards computer programming. I did go towards hypnosis, and I went through tough times. It's not that I didn't go through tough times. I definitely, I mean, you have to learn something new. You have to struggle through it. But while I was struggling through it, I was on path. I knew where I was going, and it felt somewhere inside of me, I felt like I was fanning a flame. Stuff was getting stronger and better. And so even though I was going through tough times, I knew I was doing the right thing. And so for you, when you talk about the concept of when do you let something go or when do you not let something go, my real question is if you can just step out of yourself for a moment and just go into that esoteric place in terms of, is this a thing that you feel that you just do so well that you truly get lit up doing it? And if you stuck with it, is it something that you believe that fast forward 100 years from now, is it something that you actually believe that you could truly give so much value into this world that people would pay a lot of money to do it? And if those two things can meet, if it's something that people need and they would pay you for, and it's something that truly ignites you, then you go through the tough times and you say, this is what I need. And at the same time, as you start doing that, you start paying attention to, well, you know what? Like I am doing all these things, but this one set of clients, they just drive me absolutely nuts and they just don't work for me. And that's when you start playing around with something that in nature is called the Pareto principle or the 80-20 rule, where the concept is 20% of your clients will give you 80% of your problems. And at the same time, 20% of your clients will give you 80% of your income. And more often than not, it's not the same 20% that you're doing it, right? So what ends up happening is you start saying, I'm going to do the things that fan my flames, the things that really work for me. And I'm going to be perfectly fine with letting things go while I'm moving forward. And the thing, and I'll stop because I know I'm going on a bit of a tirade here, but the thing that goes on in people's minds is they sit there saying, but if I let that go, won't everything fall apart from you? What happens if I make the wrong decision? And my logic is, and I've said this before, and that's why I really wanted to keep stressing it in today's show, is I strongly believe, and it's something that I've just ingrained into my core persona, and I've done it with so many of my clients, the concept of you are too smart to fail for too long. That if you truly do what lights you up on the inside and you make a bad decision, you get rid of the one client, you might fail. I'm not saying that you're not going to fail. I'm not saying you're not going to have a bad time, but you're too smart to fail for too long. And what will happen is you'll bring on the next client and you'll learn from it. And then you'll start feeding yourself in the right way there, or you'll establish another relationship with that client again, or whatever it is. And things will start growing again. It's as long as you keep moving forward towards that thing that is fanning your inner inspiration, that is truly growing for you, you're going to make mistakes. But as long as you know you're moving in that direction, you live through the mistakes and you say, I'm just going to keep going. And I don't need to be afraid of every single thing being perfect. And that is where most people get stuck. They are so busy, stuck in the fear of things not being perfect, that they never let themselves move forward in the first place.
I was just thinking, there's a lot of lessons that I took from some of our earlier shows where now, for example, I'll get some work in that they're expecting me to do, and I just hand it off to somebody, and then I'm the go-between on a lot of these things. I didn't feel guilty about that, but I wonder if I should learn or if I should know how to do more. But my system is working perfectly right now. But earlier me, like a year ago or 2 years ago, whatever, would have been, I'm not I'm just anxious all the time. I can't be doing this for the amount of money they're paying me to do certain things, not all certain things. I should be working a lot more. And I really had to,
So,
I struggle with that. And that's from a lot of what you told me earlier on in the episodes. And so if you work 10 minutes today and you get like $1,000 for it or whatever, monthly retainer for a particular thing, I shouldn't be like sitting there, oh my God, what I should be doing more. I should be doing more. Like maybe I'm just that fast now and that's their problem, So yeah, I had to deal with that a lot lately.
and a lot of people go through that. And I know that we've mentioned this probably on our second or third show. And it's another one of my favorite concepts. And that concept is who, not how. And that concept is that you don't need to know how to get everything right. I don't know how to put together a great show. I don't necessarily know how to market myself well. But what I do know is who can, and his name is Lee Payton. And he can do things really, really well. So what I can do is I can take the things that don't really absolutely resonate with me, and I can find who that lights up, and I give that work to him. And so what happens is you light up when you do your work. I light up when I do my work. And we're both kind of feeding the system where you are fed into my greater vision. I know you are at this point that we've spoken about this offline so many times that you've said to me, I don't know how many times, I'm in this for the long run because you're connected with a vision and you know where we're going. And I know that the things that you do for me are absolutely invaluable and I wouldn't do them as well. So the first thought in my mind when I first start this business is me sitting there going, do you know what? I need to get everything done. I need to do my own marketing. I need to make sure that I handle the clients well. I need to make sure that I handle my entire staff well, all these different things. At this point in time, what I can do is I can just say, who does that light up? Do you know what? He comes from a military background. He's just so good with stuff. He knows how to put people in line. He knows how to run things. He's just really fantastic at marketing. He's very fantastic at talking to me and getting the information out of me. So he is my who to do that. So at that point in time, I light Lee up with a great grand vision and I stay lit up with my great grand vision and we keep feeding each other and I feed Lee money and I feed Lee with a vision and Lee keeps feeding me with great product and then we keep each other moving forward. But so many people are so stuck in that concept of I need to do everything myself. And my logic is again, as I've said to you before, if it doesn't light you up, there's going to be someone else in the world that it does light up. Let them do it. And the cheapest thing you can do at that moment in time is pay for someone else to do something so you can focus in on the thing that really, really works best for you, the thing that you're absolutely aligned with.
It's time, right? It's the one thing that at least thus far we can't get back. Who knows in a couple of years, maybe we'll find a way to reverse aging. I don't know. I can't even think about that now. But yeah, it's amazing what we say we value, but we don't actually act like we value it. Like time should be everything, but people will take an entire, like you just said, something they could pass off to somebody and have it back waiting for them done the next day, but they'll spend an entire day on it getting stressed out about it and everything else because they feel like they need to do it themselves. I wonder what the underlying evolutionary or whatever you want to call it reason is for most people to do everything but what they think that they're on the planet to do. We do everything but, and there's so many quotes and cliches out there that I could reference, but it's a universal thing where I know what I'm supposed
And
to be doing, but I'm going to do everything else over here. I'm going to go polish spoons before I get to that, right?
And it is the perfect question. And I actually have the right answer for that one. It's my belief, the right answer for that one. And what that boils down to is when it's something that lights you up, you don't feel like you're working. You feel like you're actually enjoying what you do. And we're stuck in a society that limits our belief in ourselves and makes us feel like we actually have to be productive. We actually have to do the things in order to make society run. And so what happens is we sit there saying, oh, this wasn't work. This was me just doing the stuff I love. And I can't say how many times that you, Lee, have specifically said that to me in terms of, no, I love doing this. That's not a big deal. I'll just do that for you too. And my point is, that's the stuff that you should be doing all the time. And all the stuff that you don't love, you should just be passing on to someone else. And then what happens is the ideal place, and like I'm saying that this is in a utopic vision. I'm not saying that any of us are going to get there, but the ideal place to be is that every single day, you don't feel like you worked a single minute and yet you still manage to get everything done. Because at that point in time, what happens is you're just following through on your passion and you were playing every single minute and you were being challenged and you were doing the things that made a difference to you. There's times, and it's now I'm past a lot of these different specific beliefs in my mind, not necessarily all of them, but there's been times I've worked on clients and at the end of the session, I felt guilty asking for money. Do you know how much fun that was? I genuinely loved working with you. Like, I mean, and I get to earn money for this. But at the same time, that client is sitting there saying like, I walked in here with a fear and now I don't have it. I walked in here hating my spouse and all of a sudden I feel completely connected to them again. Of course I want to pay you. And I'm sitting there going, I just got a chance to work with you and had so much fun and I earn money. Like, this is crazy. That is what life is meant to feel like. It's meant to be this beautiful journey that you give your gifts out into the world and they are so special and so unique. And you find the right people for whom they give value that they want to pay you for it. And at that point in time, everyone is winning and no one feels like they've lost anything. But so many people just sit there stuck in that belief of, I'm not good enough, or it's wrong for me to be pursuing the stuff I should be doing the stuff that I need to do. And it's such a crazy thought. And it's just ingrained into us by society. And if you think about it, it needed to be ingrained into us in society because you had large corporations trying to get people to sit there in a bench 40 hours a week doing stuff that they didn't want to do. So they had to tell them, if you don't do this, you are an unproductive member of society and you're messed up. I just think that nowadays we're at a place in our evolution where you don't need to be a person that needs to do the stuff that other people need you to do. You can be a person that figures out how to deliver value. Then you figure out who it is you're going to deliver value to, figure out how much they're willing to pay you for it, and then charge them for it. And everyone wins. Everyone loves you. It's such a simple concept, and it's so impossible for people to get there.
Yeah, that industrial revolution stuff really screwed us. I mean, so obviously we needed all that to grow the country and become to get to where society is now. You could name just as many positives from just manufacturing and our 40-hour work week and the things that to build a nation and a world, not just the U.S. but the world. But the thing is that the generations behind ours and even ours were just you know you go to school, they're cutting out programs for creativity, music, other art, other things in exchange for, ironically, things that people probably won't need to actually do longhand anymore. Physics, mathematics, all the other things that AI can now tackle. That's a whole separate thing. So, but they really did quash or quell a lot of the creative stuff and the people. What do you want to do? What do you really want to do with your life? And explore that. And they're like, well, that's how about you go to school and work on the floor of a factory for whatever, which is fine. That's still good. It's a good, honest work. But yeah, I feel like our generation that going forward, especially, got screwed by watching our parents do that kind of stuff. Because that was just the life. That's the whole thing I keep saying. Find a good job with benefits, work 40 hours a week until you're 55, then yell at cable news until you're dead. Basically, that's it.
And if you rewind years in the past, that was an absolute essential for society to get us to where we are today. But we're at a place right now where we're kind of like, in my book, kind of like a golden or platinum age society where you could do those things and there's nothing wrong with doing those things. And society still needs to continue to evolve that way. And I know we actually mentioned this maybe even just a couple of podcasts ago, but I mean, what happens whether we fast forward 20 years from now or 200 years from now, God only knows, when AI gets to the point and robotics gets to the point that you no longer need a person out in the field picking the cotton because you've got a robot that can do it 24/7, 365 better than any person. And you no longer need a person in a sewing factory because you got a robot that knows how to sew things perfectly and never makes a mistake. At that point in time, you're going to have all these people that are used to the concept of working in a factory or working on a field, whatever it is, and they can't compete with a robot that's doing it for free, that all that they need is just a solar panel on the top of their head to be paid. So at that point in time, what ends up happening is these people have to figure out, what is it that you are meant to be doing in this world? Because no one is going to hire you to work in a factory because you actually want money in order to put food on the table. And a robot doesn't need that. So it's one of those things that is where society right now is going at a pretty exponential pace. And so 80 years ago, that wasn't science fiction. And nowadays it is mild science fiction. And I think fast forward 20 years from now and it will be actually reality. But just given where we are right now, you no longer need to teach people how to be factory workers. What you need to teach people to do is to be people that actually create value for society, and in such a way that they genuinely can do the things that matter to them. And to me, it's just such a big difference. And it's the one thing I'll put about that is it's the concept of maturing. So 80 years ago, our society was kind of like adolescent in certain different ways in terms of production. And at that point in time, it needed people to basically feed it forward. Society has now matured, but the human psyche has not matured along with it. And so what happens is we're still acting like the kid that needs to have our parents scolding us because we're going to touch a hot stove. But at this point in time, we know not to touch the hot stove. So we don't need to keep beating ourselves up saying, don't touch the hot stove, don't touch the hot stove. We just know that for a fact. We don't need to do that anymore. In the same way, we've now gotten to the point that we no longer need to be scolded over being productive. We can just say, what is it that actually brings me joy? And let me go out and put that out into the world. That is where we are. We've matured into this new world where that's a possibility.
I've had to zoom out a lot lately because if you just think about the little world that we're in now, the day and age is changing like crazy. Every day, new advancements come out, which are great because some of the things, I mean, look, there's a lot of blue collar trades jobs that people enjoy doing, but there's some of it that people
Of
just
course.
don't want to do. And I have no problem with, that's if a robot can do it, that'd be great. Same thing with the knowledge work stuff that you and I do. Hey, this makes me, so now I only have to work 3 hours a week or times 3 minutes a week and go to one meeting instead of, like, when is it going to take it all? Please take it all, kind of thing. But I do have to zoom out a little bit because I think about that a lot. How many hours did I work today? Which is a silly thought because what does it matter? But daily, I have to be like, okay, well, I was up at 7 this morning. I was in a meeting for 2 hours, checking out the WeWork here for anybody who's interested in Austin, which is fantastic. I'm not a spokesperson, but it's awesome. Lots of treats out there in the lobby. And I'm thinking, okay, what if I'm done after this? I'll do another meeting and then I'm done. Then it'll only be 2:30. But I have to constantly tell myself, so what if it's 2:30? In terms of like 9 to 5 or whatever. For some reason, I still feel like I need to fill that. And I don't know why. I guess it's just it's a constant battle. I know everybody else
It's
out there is
ingrained.
feeling it too. It's ingrained, yeah, where I'm like, what if I can do everything that I used to do that used to take me, let's call it 6 hours and what if I can do that in an hour and a half? And then so go for a walk, go do something. But it's so strange. And look, I also credit some of that motivation, like also what makes us successful. So it's not like we could just lay around all day. But getting back to the point about the Industrial Revolution of the 8 hour to 40 hours a week, before that, there was back in medieval times were not pleasant, but people probably worked and then they would lay around. It was only the model that we're running off now, that most of our brains are running off now. And this starts in school because we have kids in school from whatever to whatever time. It's really hard for people to not feel guilty about not filling like a day with work. And I'm very guilty of it and I'm getting better at it. But yeah, you're totally right. We just need to learn to let go. And if you end up doing something faster that it used to take you a while, but you get paid the same amount of money for it, you deserve it. There's a video that's been circulating around LinkedIn for years now about how a graphic designer does logos and he charges $5,000 for logos or whatever in the video, and it's hourly rate versus flat rate. It's one of those videos. Somebody asks him for a logo that another person may have to work on all day, but he just draws a logo. And then he's like, hey, that'll be 5,000. It's like, well, that only took you 3 minutes to make that. Why do I owe you $5,000? He's like, well, why should I be punished because I'm good? And I think about that a lot. Like, why should I
Amen.
be punished? Maybe I'm just fast. And why should, so anyway, but again, as I'm saying this, I have to remind myself of this nonstop.
Absolutely. And I've always said that's been a big thing for me is my idea of the perfect employee is someone that is the smartest person that I can find for the job and the laziest. Because what I want to have is someone that can get the job done in 5 minutes and be done. Do I really care if they spend an hour doing it or if they spend a minute doing it? Absolutely not. As long as I end up getting the result. I don't really believe in paying people by the hour. I get the fact that if you are a cashier at a specific supermarket, you got to be there a certain number of hours because you have to man that register. I get that certain things need to be paid by the hour, but there's certain things that I believe should be paid by the result. And my logic is, I don't want you to work 40 hours a week doing this and hating me for it. I want you to work 40 minutes, get it done, and move on to your other things. And then what I'll do is I'll bring on extra work for you. I'll pay you extra for the extra things you do. And what ends up happening is I get more things that I need done. I'm paying for them and I get them as quickly as possible so I can actually run with them. That to me makes perfect sense. But like everyone in this world is kind of like in this kind of like mentality of the fact that, well, exactly like you said, well, you know what? If I'm going to pay $5,000, it should take the person a week to do. Otherwise, why am I paying so much? It's like, there's the exact same thing. There's that, and I think I actually shared in another podcast the concept of a person that had a steamboat engine, and he had this boat parked on a dock, whatever it was, and his engine wasn't, and his motor wasn't working. So he was looking through the phone book, and he found a guy that managed to fix it. So he calls up the guy, and the guy comes in, he looks at it. The guy pulls out a stethoscope and starts listening to different things and starts tapping here, starts listening there, starts tapping here. And then he goes, okay, I got it. And then so he goes and he pulls out a small little ball peen hammer and he listens and he goes, tick. And he goes, okay, fine, now try now. And the guy tries it and the engine turns on perfectly. And the guy goes, oh my God, thank you so much. That was amazing. He goes, and so a week later, he gets the bill from the guy, and the bill was for, like, let's just say $10,000, whatever it was. And the guy says, $10,000 for fixing this? I want an itemized bill. You were here for all of 5 minutes. I need to know how in the world you can justify charging me $10,000 for this. So the guy sent him an itemized bill. He goes, for knocking with a hammer, $1. For knowing where to knock, $9,999. And there's a lot of truth to that. Like, it's, at the end of the day, you just want a result, but we are so stuck in a society that assumes that in order to get the result, people have to work hard. Otherwise, it's not worthy. They're not worthy of earning the money. How crazy a thought is that? The other thing that I really love is, like, Warren Buffett speaks about this very often. He says in his average year, he makes 3 to 4 large decisions in a year. And his logic is, I don't need to make a lot of decisions. I just need to think about it. I need to sit there. I need to read the newspaper. I need to enjoy my life. And when I make a decision, I'm going to make the right decision, and it's going to be worth a year's worth of work for me. Whereas so many people are stuck in the mindset of, I need to be making decisions daily. I need to be moving stuff. I need to be doing things. So they start making 10,000 decisions, hoping that they're going to do better. It's actually been proven Warren Buffett is one of the few people that manages to beat all those people that are actively managing their portfolios, because he sits back, he pays attention, he knows what's necessary, and he does it when necessary. And the rest of the time, he doesn't force himself to do stuff that would be stupid.
I'm just thinking about all the people out there too that are working in shift work and everything else. And I guess what would we say to them? Because, a lot of people will hear, okay, that's great. I really want to do what I want to do. I know what my answer would be, because I used to work long shifts. And when I worked for the government, I mean, this is not news to anybody, but they pay us to be there for a certain amount of hours per week. Then as law enforcement, we got a little bit more money to be on call, which rarely happened, where we get called out in the middle of the night. But I remember sitting in the cubicle. Our offices were in the federal courthouses. We had nice gyms in there and everything else. And I remember we would sit, maybe work an hour a day. I mean, of real work. Now the work was dangerous, but we did work. But outside of that, and my answer, if I was like, hey, I'm in this 40, I have to be in this location, I have to be whatever. Now, maybe this is not proper. Maybe this is fraud. Maybe this is what Doge is coming after. I don't know. But I had plenty of time when I was sitting there to work on my book or anything else. So what I guess my answer, maybe this is immoral, would be, if you're in a job where you're meant for something else, and that you've got something else creative that you want to do, you could probably, at least in your mind, start thinking about things and doing things while you're at the other job. Now, some people may say, "No, those people are paying you, whatever." But there are people, I'm sure, that are stuck in those jobs that want to do something else, but they're too afraid to go.
Think about that concept that you're sitting there, you only need to work, let's just say, 10 out of the 40 hours a week. And people are sitting there saying, no, they're paying you, so I should be doing nothing for the remaining 30 hours. You are literally swapping 3/4 of your time of being bored for a salary. How crazy is that? I'm not saying don't be productive. I'm not saying don't get what they need done. But if you have the capacity to do other things, for the love of God, do them. And I'm going to play around with people here, and I want people to, like, really, really do this thought experiment for me. Let's just play the game, what if Ori was right? It's just an interesting game that I want you to play. What if it is true, and let's just speed up the timeline just for the sake of it. What if it's true that robotics is progressing at the rate that Ori just said, and AI is progressing at the rate that Ori just said, and 5 years from now, robots and technology are going to be at the place that your job will be taken away from you? What are you going to do then? What are you going to do in those your 5 plus 1 month? What are you going to be doing? You're going to be sitting there going, oh my God, I'm stuck and there's nothing I'm capable of doing. And what I'm telling you to do is, while this is happening for you right now, and I know that for some people it's very, very difficult to hear, but I'm not saying do the stuff you don't. I'm saying find something that truly ignites your passion and just start moving towards that. And it doesn't need to be a big move. I'm just saying do something that while you're doing it, you just feel really passionate about doing it. If it's something that interests you, read a bit more about it. If it's something that just genuinely that you want to try doing it. If you always wanted, for me, it's one thing I just always loved the concept of electronics, then nowadays we just live in such a world that you could just find a Harvard course on electronics and learn it in your spare time and actually get the equivalent of someone that went to Harvard and learned it. And you could just do it on your spare time on your laptop on the side during work if you wanted to, or in your spare time, whatever it is. And the idea is don't do it because you have to do it. Find the thing that ignites you, that actually makes you happier on your day to day life, and do more of that. And then what happens is 3 years down the line, you obviously couldn't spend that much time on it, but 3 years down the line, you've learned enough that what happens is you can actually just offer Fred over there has a problem. And do you know what? Maybe I could offer Fred some of my help. And do you know what? Let me just go on Upwork and let me just offer some people my stuff super cheap just to build up my portfolio. And slowly but surely, things start growing for you. And before you know it, 5 years down the line, a robot comes and takes your job, and you go, thank heavens, because my other job was finally starting to take off the way I wanted it to. And now I can give it full time effort. And now I get to do what I wanted to do. And so my point is, if you're a person that's stuck in that dead end job and you're not enjoying your life, and I'm not going to be the person that says, do these things because otherwise you're going to get screwed. My point is, find a way to just be happy and find a way that really just aligns with your soul and find more smiles in your life. And as you start doing it, just start playing around with how can I do more of that? And just start increasing that for yourself. And before you know it, what happens is you start finding a passion, you start chasing it more because you're smiling more. And before you know it, like 3 years down the line, I'm not saying 3 days down the line, but 3 years down the line, you've got a new passion project that actually became something big. It's an interesting thing, but my girlfriend is actually slightly upset with me at this moment. It's not in a bad way at all, but I've been awake till 30 in the morning for the last 2 weeks because I've been playing on something I'm really passionate about. And I don't look at the time. And next thing I know, it's freaking 3:30 in the morning and I'm still awake, just playing around on my computer, playing around with some AI stuff because I just absolutely love it. And that's what I want you to find. I want you to find the thing that is challenging enough that it keeps you occupied and time flies by without you thinking about it. Before you realize it, you've been in a time warp for the last 5 hours because you really enjoyed it. And as you start doing that, fast forward a few months and you've actually created yourself a passion project.
Well, that's a good, really, really good note about the time flying by because that's when you truly know you're into something. Because everything else you do in life, it's varying. It's a sliding scale. How much am I looking at the clock? That's how I know how much I hate something, or I don't pay attention at all because I really enjoy what I'm doing. But it's especially relevant now because what I've noticed, and I'll use the marketing industry as an example because this plays into exactly what you just said about where our lives are going to be in 5 years. And ChatGPT or OpenAI came out 3 years ago now, 2.5 years ago, I forget.
2022, just under 3 years.
Yeah, I was in Bali and I was like, holy shit, this like there goes all the jobs. Now, the thing is, it was progressing slow enough that people, all the old excuses, and this applies to not just marketing work, but anything that could be linked to a platform like that. Like, oh, it's not that good yet. It's not that good. Like, well, yeah, but it's not getting worse. It's going to keep getting better. If people, and I've noticed recently that the changes have taken some leaps. Um, so now it's just even more relevant for people to just start thinking about an off ramp or getting into something you want to do because at some point, look, the whole 30% of the planet or whatever number it is that will be jobs that may be replaced. They have to do something with those people. It's not like, you're not going to be just the only one without a job. There's going to be swaths of people like that. And you're right. Start looking at what makes you happy and what you want to do while this is going on. I think that's extremely foolish to not. And I use myself as an example because I've switched jobs 4 times now. And I made the huge mistake when I left the government. I knew I was going to get into private investigative work. This is a dumb example, but it applies. And while I was still with the government, I could have gotten all my PI licensing and set up everything. I put it off. And then that set me back 6 months. I had to start from zero. Same thing with everything else. If I had just thought ahead a little bit and didn't resist doing the things that I wanted to do and have that, and I would have felt so much better. Just having the safety net or something else and just having a plan makes you feel good. Like you're saying, let's say you do something that you're passionate about. It may not make you any money, but there's a time horizon here on a lot of our jobs. So that's just nice to have something to do. What's the alternative? I'm just going to lay down and let life happen to me. So yeah, I've been there a few times, and it's just not good for your psyche to not feel like you have a purpose.
From personal experience and from people I've worked with, It's an interesting thing that people genuinely feel guilt and shame around the concept of when you have one job, you shouldn't be focusing in on something else, right? You should be giving this your full attention. And my point is, as long as you're getting your job done, why should you feel guilty over having a passion? I'm not sitting there saying start a second job that's in competition to it. I'm not saying break any kind of non-compete agreements or anything like that. What I'm saying is find the things that just genuinely light you up and give them attention. Because at the end of the day, what you're going to discover is your employer will actually like you more when you're a happier person, when you genuinely have more passion coursing through your veins. They'll actually be like, oh my God, Lee, I don't know what happened here, but I mean, people are actually responding to you better and I'm enjoying being around you more. It's a weird small thing that happens. And I'm not saying necessarily start a new job tomorrow. Whereas for some people, maybe I am saying that. But what I'm saying is find a passion that truly ignites you and just give it energy. Just understand the fact that God forbid, and I know I've given this as an example so many times in so many of our recordings, God forbid you get struck by a bus tomorrow. Are you going to sit there saying, do you know what? 3/4 of my time at my job, I sat there bored because I felt guilty about doing something I'd be passionate about. So quite honestly, my life consisted of going to school, which I didn't like, getting a job, which I was bored at and didn't like, and then I died. This sounds like the most terrible life on the face of the planet. And all I'm saying to you is take that bus scenario into your mind and sit there saying, maybe just today, make the decision of what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add in a bit more passion into my life in whatever way that is. And it not necessarily has to be about finding yourself another job. My favorite concept is excitement is its own package. Find something that excites you. Find something that brings you passion into your life. If that's exercise, go off and exercise. If it's playing with animals, go off and play with animals. Volunteer at a pet shelter as far as I care. If it's learning a new board game, then learn a new board game. If it's playing around with computers, play around with computers. What ends up happening is as you start increasing the amount of passion in your life, you become a more passionate person. And that more passionate person is the one that takes the Michael Jordan that's working at Arby's and says, do you know what? I miss playing basketball. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to go off and play some basketball. And it becomes a fun thing. And all of a sudden you start realizing, do you know what? I'm pretty good at it. I'm beating my friends. Maybe I'm just going to go take it a bit further. And what happens is passion is what ignites that. It's becoming the real you by allowing that passion to run through your veins a bit.
I had that experience recently, actually, where because I'm happier in what I'm doing now because I'm faster at it, I'm able to work on other things. That has come across to some of the people that I work with, in the sense that before I needed that. I needed those contracts to survive. Like quite literally, I was starting off and I needed to make money, and now I still need the money, but now I won't. I don't care as much. And what ends up happening, it's kind of like being in a relationship when you try to chase somebody and your whatever comes across. Now,
You hit the
if
nail on
somebody's
the
like,
head.
I need you to do this, blah, 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 I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Then all of a sudden they get rid of somebody else and they come back to me and they give me more work because it's a weird energy that you put out, like you're saying. They can tell whatever that energy is. You could feel it on somebody, even if it's something unrelated. And I also think, and if people live a long time now, or hopefully, it's not before. What were we saying? I use New York City cops as an example because that's just a bad example. But they would retire at 50. Then I think they only 20% made it to 55 or something because of heart disease and all the other stuff.
Really?
Yeah, that's because the New York City pension fund, the New York State pension fund, never had to worry about paying out long pensions because that's 9% of their whatever their pay, but they weren't worried because the cops didn't live for 3 years after they retired, so it didn't matter. But now people are
Wow.
living to be longer, and we're having longer health spans, and with that, I think people traditionally identify with their first job or whatever. I was guilty of that as well. What am I going to do without a badge and a gun? Now, this isn't like, and I come to find out I have several lifetimes ahead of me. I could change jobs, many, many times. Now, it took a lot to overcome that. And I think that's also something that people need to deal with is, hey, just because you're doing something right now, like we're saying, if you're passionate about something else, just because you went to school, maybe you paid a lot of money to do what you're doing right now. And if you don't like it, it's okay. It's good. It feels like a lot now. But if in 20 years, when you look back, even if you paid for medical school and I know this isn't right for me, I shouldn't be doing this. What are you going to, at the time you may feel this is stupid. I'm giving up on a lot. But when you go to your deathbed, you're going to be like, I'm really glad I didn't stick with that. I wanted to go be a farmer instead. And I think people just need to like not identify with their first careers as much. I had that experience at least. So.
Yeah, or their decisions as a whole, right? Like at the end of the day, you want to do things that light you up. And the one thing I want to finish off with this, and this might actually be the topic of a completely separate show that we'll do, is the reason why people don't follow through on it. And I'm just going to touch on it a bit now because it is really it's such a large topic. But more often than not, people know the thing that truly lights them up. They know for a fact that the thing that they want to do is X or Y. And what happens is in their head, they sit there saying, I can't do that because they will laugh at me, whoever the infamous they is. Or I can't do that because that's not a real career. Or I can't do that because I'm not good enough. And what basically ends up stopping people from taking those actions is the beliefs that they have around what those actions mean or what that will end up looking like. And very often what I just have to do with clients is I have to get them to list out their beliefs and really actually step away from their beliefs and see how many of these crazy stories that they're living up in their heads of disappointing their parents or looking weird to their friends or not being good enough at something and failing. And just the moment that you see that stuff written down in front of you and you say, I'm not taking this because I'm afraid that my parents will think less of me or that my friends will laugh at me, and when you actually can see that, and whether it's a matter of working with someone like me or just by yourself, just really paying attention to what it is those things are, and just understanding the fact that these are the reasons that are stopping you from doing it. It's not because you don't believe it's going to be a good job or that you're not passionate about it. It's because you're afraid of being laughed at or your self-esteem isn't strong enough. And as soon as you understand that those are just stories that are driving you, you can at least start moving towards taking those actions and sit there saying, I'll test those stories in reality. And that's where so many things change for people.
Yeah, it's like the old one of the deathbed things was, I wish I hadn't worried so much about what other people thought. And then there's that whole thing, which is true, is most people are just thinking about themselves anyway. You know, we all walk around all day thinking. I was doing it here. It's my first day at this co-working place, just for the day pass, and I'm walking through, and I'm like, is everybody looking at me like I'm a weirdo? Like then nobody's thinking about me. They're thinking about themselves and what they need to do next. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. You know, humans are weird.
Have you? I know I shared the saying with you before, and I love the saying so much. Again, I butcher all my sayings, but I'm just going to say it anyway. So it's basically when you're 20, you are so worried about what people think about you. When you're 40, you stop caring, and then when you're 60, you realize they weren't thinking about you in the first place. And I love that concept because there's just so much truth to the fact that most people don't give a damn about you. Even your closest friends and family, the truth is they want you to be happy and they may judge you or they may think about you behind your back or whatever it is. And quite honestly, if those are the people you're keeping around, let them have their thoughts and wish them the best on their journey and just move on away from them. But most people in this world don't really care if you look like an idiot. As a matter of fact, they won't even notice in the first place. You're the only person that's judging yourself from inside of yourself, thinking that everyone knows the crazy thoughts going in your head, as if they've got an inner view of your monologue. It just doesn't work that way in reality.
Yeah, if we could see thought bubbles, everybody in this place, for example, is going around with the same thoughts about themselves. You know, does everybody think I'm strange? Like, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
They see me going to the snack machine for another one of these monster drinks. But yeah, no, but this is a great episode. It's a great place to end. I think we have a lot of exciting stuff coming up. We've got a new webpage coming out soon about some of the retreats. And again, there's going to be many layers of retreats. We keep talking about it, but we will have that waiting list up soon. And again, this is for the out of country psychedelic retreats. There's been a lot of movement lately in legislature for things. It's not legal in a lot of places yet, but we're going in the right direction there, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll have that information up. Maybe we'll do a show on that, just the state of those therapies and treatments, and what we're planning on doing, what we've already done, but what we're going to expand. I think that would be helpful information to everybody. So we appreciate everybody. Thank you for liking, subscribing, whatever the buttons are these days, at the bottom of these videos. And sounds good, my friend, to be continued.
Love you guys. Thanks so much.
Hey everyone, it's Lee. Just one more thing before you go. Ever wondered how journaling could help change your life? You can find out by downloading the Emotional Alchemy Journal from the link in the description. It's a powerful tool for deep self-reflection, and it's completely free. And if you're looking to connect with Ori and learn more about how he can help you, visit his website at OriGoldstein.com. A link will also be in the description. Until next time, keep challenging the chaos within, be a little kinder to yourself, and let's continue to evolve together.